This is Center Stage, putting your firm in the spotlight by highlighting business owners and other industry experts to help take your firm to the next level. Hey everyone, and welcome to Center Stage. I'm your host, John Henson, and this week we're talking about something that we use here at Spotlight Branding as part of our business model, but it is something that I actually had no idea that a law firm could have. And I know that most of our audience are lawyers, solo, small firms, maybe getting up into the mid-sized firms, but that is a subscription-based service model or payment model or whatever the case is. And I'm really excited to talk about this because I still don't know how it would work in the legal world. And so we're going to learn about it together. I am part of the target audience for this episode because we're gonna both learn about it together. And our guest this week is someone who has started their law firm around this. This is going to be their business model, and they're making it work for them. They're having a lot of success doing it, and he's now setting out to help other lawyers implement this in their firms as well. And that is attorney Mathew Kerbis. Mathew, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, and you're absolutely right. I'm setting out to bring the subscription model to the profession, and this is for those podcast only listeners. Go to Spotlight Branding's YouTube page and wherever else you can watch this video, because I have very dedicated virtual backgrounds to the different aspects of what I do. Law Subscribed is a podcast, and that's going to be a growing sort of niche legal journalism project that I'm working on, in addition to my law firm, which is Subscription Attorney LLC, where I am actually delivering on the model that I'm trying to preach to the profession. So happy to be here.
Awesome. So before we jump in, what is your story? How did you get to this point where you've started this subscription-based law firm?
Well, I definitely stand on the shoulder of the giants who came before me in the profession, that some tried successfully and some did not with the subscription model in the legal profession. The areas where it hasn't really been too successful is in the selling your time ahead of time. That's sort of like maybe a half step into trying to reinvent the business model. And as far as I'm aware, there are maybe 2 or 3 attorneys out there who still do this. I don't know to what degree successfly they do it, but they sell their time. Here's 10 hours a month kind of a thing for business clients. So they're targeting businesses. The parts of the industry where it's been more successful are in intellectual property, trademarks, copyrights, things that require ongoing protection that have a federal practice, right? So you're not limited to your local jurisdiction. You need to help the companies, protect their branding and strategize their branding and their messaging, hence the trademark and copyright aspect of it. So that's really where the subscription model has found the most success so far in the legal profession. And I have some guests on my podcast that do that. And then also there's somebody, Jess Birkin, an attorney out of Minneapolis, who represents nonprofits, and she's found great success, and she's one of the pioneers with the subscription model. So my goal with Law Subscribed was really just talk to attorneys using the subscription model, talk to technologists building for it or willing to talk about it as applied to the legal profession, and see all the different ways that it can be done. But my own personal journey is taking a very different and unique approach with the subscription model. It really all goes back to my law school days. I was chair of the law student division for the ABA, and so I was always focused on what can I do to help the student debt addled new graduates with getting jobs and making money to pay off their student loans. And then continuing my leadership in the American Bar Association over 9 years, it was this focus on access to justice. And so sort of in the back of my mind, it was percolating, and I sort of found the subscription model as the solution, as a good solution to both those problems. You could help attorneys lower the prices to make legal services more accessible and allowing them to scale their business. Like you said, Spotlight Branding offers a subscription model that allows you to scale your business as opposed to the billable hour. There's only so many hours in the day. Well, at the same time, by lowering those prices and targeting markets that are traditionally underserved or priced out of legal services, you could help close that access to justice gap. So it seemed sort of like a no-brainer. I ran for an elected leadership position in the American Bar Association based on that and lost. It just seemed like it was maybe a little bit too far out there of a concept. Like you said, you haven't really heard about it because it is still very much even though there are a couple dozen attorneys doing it, it's still very much a new thing. And my vision for it has not really been applied yet. So I just said, I lost the election. I said, forget it. I'm going to launch Law Subscribed, and I have to launch my own business to prove that it can be done. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm actually trying to compete with Netflix level prices. Like my entry level is $20 a month. But like,
Wow.
but like you would go to a store and buy anything in a store. I'm actually using pricing that consumers are used to looking at. So sure, it's $20 a month, but it's $19.99 a month. And so I want it to be, I want access to me as an attorney to be super accessible. Now, I'm not, while I'm certainly capable of doing a small IP part of my practice, I'm really targeting just being able to contact me and talk to an attorney about problems so we could do problem avoidance instead of problem solving. That's sort of the goal. It's been compared to legal insurance, but and in a way it is kind of like insurance in that you get it for when something bad happens, you have access to that, but it's not legal insurance because the way that I've built my practice is to encourage they contact me to talk through whatever problems might be going on in their life. You don't call up your insurance company and do that. So it's not quite legal insurance, but it is in a way, it's that's sort of a way to think about it of why you're paying this $20 a month at the entry level. And we could talk about what that $20 gets you or something else that you'd want to go into.
Yeah. I mean, and that's kind of where I'm at right now, in speaking about kind of our model. And that's kind of what I got to compare it to, because that's where my frame of reference is. You talked about, you mentioned like selling your time up front. It's like, with us, it's like you pay for marketing services, whatever services you want, blog, newsletter, social media, whatever the case is. You pay for that, at the start of the month or whenever your billing date is. And then we have that money. All right, we're going to give you what you paid for. How does that work, especially at, $19.99 a month, especially when I know that a lot of attorneys and lawyers feel like they do not ever have enough time to do anything or everything that they need to do. So how does that work when you have maybe even prices that are that low?
While I haven't reached it yet because I'm a true solo who's just started, a lot of that is smart outsourcing. And while we didn't talk about this ahead of time, hiring a company like Spotlight Branding would be a way to outsource, some of the other tasks that you don't have enough time for because you're doing your own marketing or you're doing your own podcast, you're recording or social media or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So when you get to the point where you could afford to do that, outsourcing is really important. I haven't reached that yet. At the time of recording, I'm like a little bit under a month into this endeavor for me. But because I have the subscription model, I know what my monthly recurring revenue is going to be. And just like any other SaaS business, I have to consider churn. That's and for the attorneys listening, that they don't represent startups, so they've never heard of churn. That's when you lose subscribers. And so it's always easier to keep a subscriber than it is to go out and get more subscribers. That's customer acquisition cost. And so making sure that I'm continuing to provide value to my subscribers as I grow my subscriber base will allow me to better see, okay, here's my monthly recurring revenue. I could afford to spend X amount more on marketing or X amount more on legal tech or non-legal tech. And so a lot of it comes down to leveraging outside experts in what they do, marketing, website, what have you, and also leveraging legal technology to make things as efficient as possible, because when you're no longer billing by the hour, you're incentivized to do that. So I'm using document automation software. I'm using they call it artificial intelligent doc analysis, but it's still in its early stages. As much data as we have in the legal profession, it hasn't really we haven't fed enough of it to deep learning artificial intelligence for it to really be high quality AI right now. But it's a work in progress, and I'm an early adopter of it because I want to feed that AI more contracts so that it gets better and better and better, right? So I'm leveraging that. So I don't have to spend time reading every single word of a contract. I'm going to go in and upload it to whatever document automation or document analysis software that I have. It will pull out some potentially problem clauses, which we could address first. right? And not every single clause needs to be addressed. Not every single word needs to be figured out, especially when you're dealing with the type of clients that I'm dealing with. I reviewed a pet groomer's agreement, a one-page pet groomer's agreement for a client the other day, right? So, I mean, you're talking about things that, like, you're faced with contracts in everyday life, right?
Yeah.
Now I'm able to advise a client on the front end of taking their dog to the groomers, and maybe there's a, the dog gets injured and they wanted to recover for that, but if they just signed this contract they were presented with, their ability to recover would be limited. So that kind of a thing that I'm able to do, more quickly and more efficiently by leveraging the technology. So it really comes down to efficiency and effectiveness in being able to deliver those services. So yes, it would be more like you go to the store, you buy something, you get something in exchange. You go to a marketer, they're going to market for you that month, but you pay them in advance. And so my engagement agreements, because lawyer ethics, right?
Right.
Have to have very careful wording in there of what people are getting in exchange for paying something up front.
Yeah. And so, and kind of what I'm hearing in all of this is there's this element of peace of mind, because it doesn't necessarily, and it can apply it across a bunch of different practice areas, because maybe an individual or a business on a monthly basis may not have something for you in a given month, but there's that security there that, like you pointed out with the pet groomer agreement, they just want that peace of mind, and it makes that legal knowledge a little bit more accessible, but also easier to digest and understand, kind of in a way that, like, when a lot of the DIY stuff came about and popped up a few years ago, where people could just go to LegalZoom and kind of do it all themselves. I feel like this subscription model kind of gives people that knowledge and accessibility in a more secure way, because they have someone that they are working with directly versus just going out on their own.
Yeah, absolutely. And the way that I've built my model is it's very much people are not calling me at any time. People are not
Mm-hmm.
emailing me at any time. I have a client portal, right? And so
Yeah.
one of the things that you get access to if you sign up through my website is the first thing it has you do is it has you set up your client portal. And in the client portal is where you're able to schedule calls with me when I'm already available, right? So how did we schedule this? We used a similar sort of app, right? I use Calendly to do that. And they only get access to those links if they're a subscriber. They also have a messaging portal in there. So I try to stay out of my email. I get one or two updates. Right now I have two updates. If I hope to get it down to one, where it's letting me know that there are messages in my client portal. So I'll go in at part of my day and I'll answer the messages in the client portal. And sometimes those messages are having a sort of legal question that maybe I don't have the answer to right away. So I just let them know, I'll be able to research this and get back to you next week. And then I research that issue, but then I don't just this is the problem with general practitioners is you always have to research something new, right? So you're never an expert in anything. Well, one of the ways that I stay ahead of that and also at the same time provide value to my clients, and I think Spotlight Branding, you guys could talk about this in this sort of what you do is you have one piece of content, you chop it up and you make it a million pieces of content, right? And
Yeah.
you make it unique and different. So I do the same thing with my law practice, and this is part of the value that I provide. So I will answer that question. Like I got a landlord-tenant related question the other day about withholding rent, right? And what they're allowed to do and when they can withhold rent and what has to be done, that kind of a thing. So now I could answer that question and actually answer a client, but then take out the personally identifying information and upload it into my knowledge base, which again is only accessible by paying clients who get access to the client portal. So then they can actually read a real answer to an actual legal question, then maybe they don't even need to contact me. Or when they do contact me and follow up because it's only like a sliver of something maybe not addressed in that answer that's in my knowledge base. And then I could
Right.
take a section of that answer in the knowledge base and I could use it as marketing material or I could use it as something else, right? So I try to be as efficient with the time that I'm spending servicing clients as it
Yeah.
applies to the rest of my business.
Yeah. So another thing that you mentioned kind of a few minutes ago was just knowing the subscription model allows you to more easily project what your monthly revenue is going to be. How and one of the things that the benefits of that is I've seen a lot of, especially solo and small law firms, they get into these cash flow peaks and valleys, and there could be a plethora of reasons as to why that's the case, but either way, if you're in that sort of cycle, it's really stressful, especially when you have no money coming in and no cases on the horizon. It's, really panic inducing. But this seems like a good solution to it, even that out a little bit. How difficult, at least in your opinion, would it be for a law firm to change their business model? Because we know a lot of them, they maybe do flat fee or contingency based, payment. How easy would it be to change a law firm business model over to a subscription based, or could you do both? Could you add some sort of subscription based service to maybe supplement the other fee structures?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's one of the questions I'm trying to answer with Law Subscribed. And the answer is it depends, right? It
Of course.
depends how open-minded are the the owners of the firm, and are there multiple owners, and how do you have to balance that, right? And I had to leave a firm to start this because the way I wanted to do it could not be done within existing infrastructure of a law firm, right? And even though they were open-minded to the subscription model, I still had to hit my billable hour requirements kind of a thing. And there were other aspects of a traditional, what I call the legacy model law practice, that didn't comport with the way I truly wanted to do the subscription model. And it's hard to build a practice within another practice when you have obligations as an associate attorney. Yeah. So number one, I would say if you're a partner and you have an associate who comes to you who wants to do this, invest in them and invest in it, and be willing to give up billable hour time or let it count towards billable hour time, the time that they're investing in starting a subscription model or adding one to a practice. Because I absolutely think it can be added. I absolutely do. And it depends on how you do that, right? Is it an access thing? I'd prefer you have two different practices, and you have whenever you bring on a new client, it's the subscription model, and then you slowly phase out the billable hour side of it, because you'll see, like you were just talking about, the administrative side of having to collect is gone. It disappears when they pay up front. So I would say offer A and B to new clients as they come in would be the way to do it. So build the model, build out the technology. And nowadays there's turnkey solutions. One of the first subscription attorneys, Kim Bennett, now has a product, Fidu, short as though like fiduciary. I think it's Fidu Legal. And that's more of a turnkey solution. I know Rally is a software out there that's offering it. I know Clio publishes on it, but I don't really think they're built for it inherently. But there are some turnkey solutions out there that make it easier to launch a subscription or add one to your practice than ever before. I didn't use those because I had my own way I wanted to do it. So I actually got much more affordable client portal software, but it was highly customizable. And I had to go in through no-code tools and build the thing out. But nowadays, with more and more technology being made to just tack one onto a law firm, I say go for it. Try out that technology. It's more expensive than what I'm using, but it's not prohibitively expensive, I think. I think some of the lowest prices are like $200 a month or something like that. I mean, I'm paying $150 for a whole year for my client portal software. So it's totally different sort of pricing there. But if you don't have time because you're still billing by the hour and you want to add a subscription model, there is software out there right now that can help you do that.
So then, what kinds of practice areas work best for this? I mean, could it, you mentioned, is it more for general practitioners, or can it be people who have kind of niched down a little bit and maybe they're focusing on, one or two different areas?
Oh, yeah. Niching down is encouraged, right? It's always encouraged. Right now, my niche is I'm probably the most affordable attorney in America, right? And there's no other attorney offering $20 a month to actually get access to them. There is like something out of Arizona, or maybe it's Utah with like the new re-regulation going on there, where it's like law on call and it's maybe $10 a month and you get access to an attorney. But if you actually need their legal services, like beyond just the phone call, it's the billable hour. Legal Shield is like that too. I often get compared to Legal Shield. And I'd love to have someone from Legal Shield on my podcast eventually, because it's still it's still a part of it. And Legal Shield or Law on Call is going to be right for some people. And then you get like a reduced billable hour fee. But it's kind of a bait and switch. And that's what I want firms to avoid if they want to adopt the subscription model, which is why I said do A/B testing. You offer all new clients get an option of subscription or billable hour. Chances are they're going to go with subscription because it's predictable pricing. And depending on how you set up the practice and how you're you're providing those legal services, you are going to like if you could provide them quicker and more efficiently, but still being effective, you could potentially make more money with a subscription model than you ever could on the billable hour model, even when you're doing the same kind of work and you're still billing side by side. But you're going to see that as a firm, when you're building up those efficiencies to make the subscription model that you're offering clients, when you're offering them both more, to make the subscription model profitable for you, the billable hour is going to be less profitable because you're no longer you're more efficient with your time, right? So eventually, I think it's the natural transition to go all the way over to the subscription model over time.
Yeah. So, and then just one point of clarity that I just want to make sure that I understand on my end. So let's say that someone is on your subscription model. They're a business, for example, and they ask you some questions here and there. All of a sudden, they get like one of their clients sues them. And I promise I am not talking about a real example that happened with us. All right. This is totally out of left field. But, they ask questions here and there, whatever. And then all of a sudden, a client sues them. Is that, and they want to come to you as like, hey, is this something that we need to go to court over? And then all of a sudden, whatever your advice is that entire process going to be covered under your subscription model, or is there anything extra there that would have to become involved?
Right now, I think the only type of litigation that really works really well for the subscription model is high volume. So like foreclosure related work, insurance related work, right? Where it's a high volume, because then you do a flat fee up front, you do a subscription month to month, and then you have a sweet enough of a carrot at the end of a flat fee when the case resolves that you still want to push towards resolution, and you don't make the monthly fee so high that you just want to kick the can down the road. So there's a way to price it, and I actually have a formula to help high volume sort of practices with that. But for just one-off litigation, it's a lot more difficult. There is one attorney out there. He was interviewed on one of the Legal Talk Network shows. I can't remember what his name is, but he's a personal injury attorney, which is normally contingency. But what he does is he makes his clients pay a monthly amount plus the costs of their case, and then he takes a lesser contingency at the end. And so there is a way to do it with even the contingency model of for litigation. I am all transactional. I as a solo practitioner who's just bootstrapping and innovating in the space and trying something out, I am not set up yet to litigate. And I think I would have to not just be a solo in order to do that, because my calendar availability is such that I like to be available a lot for my clients. So litigation is not included, and in my engagement agreement, it says that specifically. This does not include any litigation. I will make referrals to litigation counsel, and I have developed a lot of relationships over the years. This is where bar associations come in, right? I developed a lot of relationships over the years with attorneys that I know charge flat fees for certain types of eviction cases, whether it's for landlords or tenants, and they will take care of that. But if I'm doing my job right for existing clients, I will help them negotiate out of even ending up in litigation in the first place, maybe even avoiding the need for negotiation in the first place. If I'm properly advising them, things still happen. You can't control the other side to a transaction sometimes, like in the landlord-tenant sort of situation, right? Yeah. But if I'm doing my job right, I'm negotiating them out of that situation. They never end up in litigation anyway. And so, and that frankly, and I think a lot of cases could end up like that, which means it would reduce the burden on the court system and reduce the need for legal aid in that situation, making them freeing up more money and time of legal aid attorneys to help people that are in litigation. So as much as this is like yes, there are ways that I can make money from law subscribed. Yes, I am trying to make money from subscription attorney. But at the same time, I really see this as a public good. And attorneys love to talk about pro bono and public good. Well, this is a way to engage, and I think in the grand scheme of things, public good by reducing the burden on court systems by helping people engage in litigation avoidance. So in a roundabout way to your question, answer your question is no, I don't do that. But here's all the other, here are all the other ways I'm trying to prevent somebody from any litigation in the first place. But if somebody finds me and they're like, I need litigation help, I tell them, I really can't do that for you. But what I can do is if you're like a pro se person, I do litigation consulting. So in the way that people go to those help desks, which they can't always help them at if they want to represent themselves pro se, I have part of my model set up where you could pay me a recurring amount and I will consult with you. I will help you draft your complaints. I will help you draft your answers. I will help you represent yourselves pro se. That's unbundled legal services, which is allowed in Illinois, where I'm not actually filing an appearance on your behalf in court, but I am helping. Like I said, litigation consulting, limited scope litigation consulting is what I call it. And so that is an available part of what I offer, but it's not really for defend, like that can't work for companies because they need to hire counsel to go in and represent them. I do
Right.
also, for the corporate clients, I have and this is something for all the attorney listeners to think about. For the corporate clients, which may be a little bit more appealing because they pay more, I have an option that I call managed outside counsel, which means that I am more like your fractionalized in-house attorney, outside counsel in-house attorney, right? So maybe you're not
Mhm.
big enough or you don't want to hire an in-house attorney. So I will act as fractionalized in-house counsel. So in the same way that in-house counsel can't do everything, but they can research and answer a lot of questions, they can't, they can't always go to court for you. They can't always file a patent, or they can't always do certain things, right? I will manage specialized or expert outside counsel for these companies if they want to. For my largest package that I offer, that's included. But for Premier subscribers and up, for an additional monthly fee, I will manage outside counsel, including working with litigation counsel. So you, as the CEO of your business or the founder of your business, can still focus on your business. And if I'm doing my job, I know your business and I could liaise and help manage ongoing litigation. So I'm still involved in litigation potentially for my clients, but I'm not actively going to court and filing appearances and representing them.
Yeah, no, that makes a ton of sense. And I mean, honestly, I mean, just in hearing about this and how you've got everything set up, especially just the way that society is going in general, like I feel like there is a ton of potential, and this could very well be the future of the legal world, especially because people my generation, younger generation, we're used to that subscription model just being in everything. And going now towards that in the legal world, especially when sort of the overall kind of assumption is that hiring a lawyer is going to be this super expensive thing. Now all of a sudden it's like, oh, I can work with a lawyer on a rate that I can afford in a process that I'm very comfortable with and totally understand. So I think it's really, really interesting. And so how can people subscribe to your podcast, learn more about this model, and potentially see about implementing it at their own firm?
Yeah. And before I give the follow-up information, I will say, like, for companies like Spotlight Branding, like, there is opportunity there where there's a question of how do you market to people for this new model? And it's something that I'm trying to solve right now because there is an education piece there. So for all the attorney marketers out there who might listen in to see what Spotlight Branding's doing because you guys do a good job and they want to copy you, think about, how can, as this practice grow, this type of law, billable or model grows and grows for the legal profession, how you can help attorneys, market for them. And so for that, I encourage you, just on every single podcast listening app, even some of the indie ones that are just cropping up, you could find Law Subscribed on there. Subscribe there. You go to lawsubscribe.com where you could sign up for the newsletter and just be notified when podcasts are dropping. There might be some articles in the pipeline coming down there in the near future. There's also ways that you could support Law Subscribed financially on the website. And then subscriptionattorney.com is the law firm. And my firm motto is a transparent price for legal advice. So everything's transparent. All my pricing, my engagement agreement, everything on my website. So if you're an attorney and you want to see how I'm doing it, it's all there, subscriptionattorney.com.
Awesome. And I would be really interested to see what you all out there think about this. Feel free to reach out to us, respond to the email announcement that will go out when this show goes live. Let us know on social media. Let us know what you think about this. I'm really curious to know, just because I know the stereotype for lawyers that they're very hesitant to embrace new technology and new ways of thinking. So and this is, I think, by legal world standards, pretty radical, but I think is something that can really, really change the legal industry. And I'm really excited to see where you go with this. I do have one final question for you. It's the one question we ask all of our guests here. And that is, if you had one final piece of advice for our listeners, what would it be?
Context matters.
Are you going to give context for that? No.
Context. If the listeners remember absolutely nothing else, it's context matters, right?
Yeah.
It's in your life, that's in work, that's in the way you choose to design your subscription model for the type of market that you're targeting. Context matters.
Yep. Completely agree. Awesome. This has been absolutely fantastic. I learned a lot. I hope all of you out there learned a lot as well. Definitely subscribe to Matthew's podcast, Law Subscribed, especially if you're really interested in learning more about how you can potentially implement this in your firm. Thank you all for continuing to listen. If you have not subscribed to Center Stage yet, you're just checking this episode out, I encourage you to do so. Like Law Subscribed, we're everywhere. We're on all of the platforms. So definitely subscribe, leave a review. We really do appreciate it. That's going to do it for us this week. Mathew, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for listening. To learn more, go to spotlightbranding.com/center stage.